Hey everyone, this is Eric Hackler here. I'm trying something new, trying a couple new things. Real quick, this is very informal. Ideally, this whole thing that I'm doing will always be informal. So for starters, we're dual streaming live on YouTube and Instagram. So I'm gonna bounce my eyes back and forth between both of you. Uh, Hopefully that goes well. And yeah, I want to try this thing because I am, for a myriad of reasons, I've always been bad about talking about the projects I'm working on and just the stories I'm telling and just sharing that. So I'm gonna try to, on a semi-regular basis, do like real short little lives just to talk about what I'm up to and just give updates on the projects I'm working on, and just yeah, start sharing my stories a little more with the world and with you, hopefully. So, also still going to try to do my regular live streams of either photo or video editing. I've got some cool portrait photography that I want to do some live streams on YouTube. So check those out over there. And if you want to see the results, eventually they'll end up on my Twisted in Nature Instagram. So you can find that in my bio. Okay, yeah, real quick, just let's talk about some stories. And just kind of some cool film updates. So the big news, big-ish news, my short film, The Funnel Web, which I wrote back in like 2019, and we filmed. I guess I wrote it in 2018, and then we filmed it in 2019. Is finally going to festivals, which is super cool. The trailer is on my YouTube, and the festival announcements are on my Instagram. So I guess whichever one you're on, check for updates on the other one because there's different stuff. And this is super cool because just it's been a long time since I've like had a festival that I directed, or had a film that I directed going to festivals. And this is one that I like. I love when art sort of develops and you start off with like. I'm going to say like all the time. Like, apologies to my third grade teacher. I never accomplished that challenge of not using that word. But, so, I love when something you make as an artist. This is a thing I love about art in general. And we always talk about the death of the author and the question of does the author's or the artist or the filmmaker's intention matter in comparison to the interpretation by the audience. How much of that is important? How much does it have more weight if it's stated versus not? Like where's the balance? And we talk about that a lot, and I think it's one of the amazing things about making art and about sharing art with the world, and about one of the good things about the world we live in right now with everything being digital and us releasing things and being able to have conversations about them. Is that we get to have these, like, we can discuss this in real time. It's not like we're, painters in the Renaissance who, paint something and then doesn't get noticed until after they're dead, and you never get to really be part of the dialogue. So this is exciting. But that's cool and awesome, and we don't talk about it, or we do talk about it, just not as much as we could. Something I feel like we never talk about is is an artist's the way and like is an artist's own interpretation of their work changing over the course of making it. Because I would love to hear more about that. About how many screenwriters or painters or novelists started out writing a book about or writing a piece or making a piece about something, and then over the course of it they either changed who they were, like who they were changed, and so they made a different version of it, or it thus changed the piece, or even the opposite, even just gaining a deeper understanding of it. One of the things that I'll talk about in a second is I guess I'll talk about it now. A short screenplay that I wrote called Cody's Tab, which is currently being submitted to festivals. We'll see where that goes. But I also, after I wrote the screenplay, I adapted it to a short story and understood it so much better, or not even better, just differently by adapting it and just by spending more time with it. And that was a really cool process. And so I guess I'll talk Cody's Tab first real quickly, because Cody's Tab is the story of a guy who has a brush with death, and becomes friends with the Grim Reaper, and becomes friends with the physical incarnation of death, and just in an attempt to use his new lease on life in a positive way, tries to go vigilante, messes up, and is now kind of grappling with the consequences of the just when our idea of ourselves comes into conflict with the reality of who we are and the world we inhabit. And in this case, the story itself didn't change as I adapted it from screenplay to prose, but it did change. Like weirdly, the short story helped me realize a lot of cool visual options that I then incorporated into the screenplay. So it was a cool change there. But anyway, Cody's Tab screenplay is in good shape. The short story's been submitted to some literary magazines, and the screenplay's been submitted to some screenplay competitions. So hopefully, that will be featuring more heavily in a future video. Hopefully, I will make future videos. That'd be cool. Keeping a series going. But the other thing, but anyway, Funnel Web. When I wrote it, it was originally meant to be just a fun sort of crime thing with a bit of a gimmick to it in the way it's written, and it was going to just be it was just like my original reading of it was about how we react to nonsense, and about how in a world that gets increasingly crazy, how we handle it, and it's not, eventually all of our lives have been infected by the nonsense of this timeline that we're living in, and whether that's something very explicit like any of the political stuff that goes on, or things like the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court, where it's like, oh, this is going to have a tangible impact on my life, and now I have to adapt my life because a bunch of very loud people yelled loud enough to get their completely antiquated ideas signed into paper, and just like so whether nonsense on that level is affecting your life, or on the flip side, the craziness of the world we live in, where I'm running out of USB ports because I've got my my computer, my mouse, my e-cig, my book, just all like the small ways that our lives have gotten kind of nonsensical. Or because, hey, great thing, we now have video calls and Zoom and we can go live on stuff. Oh, that now means we are available to our employers 24/7 now, and they expect, we all deal with nonsense, whether on a huge level or a small one. So that was what that script was, and that's what that film was when we filmed it. And then looking back at it, as I've developed it and had to write a whole bunch of summaries and things for festivals and websites and so on, I realized I inadvertently put together a satire of the hierarchy of working in our current American hellscape of a economic system, where you have the people at the bottom level, who in this case are a career criminal who's gonna do a kidnapping, and a forger who's writing this ransom note, are basically being forced to work because the higher ups have dirt on them, or they're like the people they're at the bottom of the food chain. Then you've got in the middle, you have the two police officers who are on the payroll, and they're kind of they're the authority figures, the middle managers who are reinforcing the system, while also kind of hero worshiping the guys at the top without realizing that the guys at the top don't care. It's that whether this is people in the lowest income bracket spending all their money to try to pay Trump's legal fees, or the Elon Musk stands on Twitter, or whatever letter he decides to call it next, with who are attacking people, or reporting left-wing posts in the hopes that Elon will see that, and or even are just posting like alt-right Nazi propaganda in the hopes that Elon will see it and elevate, and Elon doesn't care. And so you've got that level of people in this screenplay, and then at the top you've got the guys in in the case of Funnelweb, this is a real estate developer and his lawyer discussing this real estate developer's plan to arrange the kidnapping of his own nephew in order to kind of in a weird way, emerge as the hero in the media and thus distract them from all the other like crimes he's committed. And so, and that one I think is fairly obvious that it's just the guys at the top who just don't care about the people below them and who will completely upend people's lives for their own completely dumb or selfish or meaningless ends. And so that script kind of, over the course of the process of making it and the process of now looking back on it and editing it and putting it together and now releasing it after all these years, has turned into my understanding of it has clarified so much more in a way that I never thought it would. So that is super cool, and the big news out of this is that, man, I buried the lead. That's the thing that it's the thing I struggle with in my stories as well. I'm really bad at explaining what the hook of my stories is. I'm really bad at just talking about them. Here we go. So Funnelweb is starting its festival run. It has gotten into 3 festivals so far, which is awesome. If you're in DC and want to go to, and if you're a comic fan, it is playing at the Awesome Con Short Film Festival, which is the beginning of next month. It's March 8th to 10th. We're playing on the 10th. If you're a Virginia resident or near Virginia and want to go to Charlottesville, it is playing at the, I actually have the little flyer here, which I think is backwards for you on Instagram, so I don't know, you hold this video up to a mirror. But the Indie Short Film Festival, which is playing in Charlottesville the end of March, and then going back up to New Jersey for the Jersey Shore Film Festival, which film I produced and shot last year called The Devil's Playground actually won Best New Jersey Horror there. We got into that as well. So that's June 23rd to July 7th. They've got a longer run. Not sure about where or what day we're screening with them yet. We'll let you know. When I do more of these videos. I'm going to do more of these videos. I'm putting this out there. But yeah, so that's the first cool news, is that Funnelweb is the first cool news. I've talked for like, I don't know, I'm 12 minutes into this. I thought this was going to be 5. Anyway, Funnelweb is playing at festivals. It's been a wonderful, amazing journey, not just making the movie, but for my own personal understanding of it. And so if you want to see a story about stupid criminals that when I wrote it was outlandish, and now thanks to Trump and Alex Murtaugh and just our world's slide into crazier nonsense is now might seem antiquated. And see us, got a satire of American economy there, what I didn't realize I was writing. But so that's coming out. I'm excited about that. Talked about Cody's Tab. The other project that you're going to be hearing a lot about, partially because it's on my mind like crazy, but also because it's one of my favorite things I've ever worked on, is Last Wave: The Curse of the Nicolas Cage Surfboard. Which, if you scroll back through my Instagram, you'll find pictures from and videos from us on set. Is working our way through post. That one is, if you're, as you might have guessed, it's for Nick Cage fans. It's for everybody. I guess Nick Cage fans and everybody is kind of synonymous. But yeah, it's the story of a cursed surfboard with Nicolas Cage's face on it that kills its way through a sleepy New Jersey surf town. So that one we're in post-production on it. We're going through. It's a feature, so it's taking us a good bit longer. And we just put together our first, not full assembly cut because we still have scenes to work on, but an outline cut where we have, placeholder text for the scenes that aren't done, and then everything else is kind of rough cut in there. And that is over an hour and 45 minutes, which is great if you're an editor. And this is going to be a small tangent, but if you're an editor or a filmmaker making features, your first cut is almost always going to be your longest one, and it's usually going to be, you're going to look at that, you're going to make it, you're going to go, the movie is now complete, and then you're going to start whittling it down and cutting it down, and you're going to not always, depending on your process. I I think I've made one film where we didn't heavily one feature film where we didn't heavily cut down and just sort of streamline the story as you sort of smooth out those edges from what it was on screen or on page to what it becomes on screen. But yeah, so we're at an hour 44, and we still have a couple big scenes to put together. So once we do that, we're gonna end up with a movie, hopefully a first cut that's over 2 hours, and that gives us a lot of wiggle room to really cut it down if we need to and streamline it. And sometimes cutting it down doesn't mean taking out scenes; it means taking out shots, or can we speed up this transition, or maybe if we switch these scenes. It's small stuff. But it lets us, the fact that we have that, we know we're gonna have that wiggle room to cut this down and still have a feature film is really exciting for me. It's one of those moments of like, when you make a project, you look at it and you put it all together and you're hopeful that this is all gonna come together. And one of the big things is we were hoping this is gonna be long enough, because it never feels long when you're shooting. I mean, the shooting process takes a while, but you never really know how long the movie is. Until you put it together. So the fact that it's coming together, and it's coming together at a good feature length, makes me really happy. So that one's like I said, Nicolas Cage surfboard kills its way through a small town. Non-stop references to his movies, some that are very big and blatant. Some of them are subtle to the point of almost insanity. If anyone watches the movie and can tell me what the guy whose car they hijack, the hijackee, whatever the word for that is, if anyone can tell me what that is a reference to, I will, I don't know, I'll buy you dinner or something, because that's, I think, to date our nichest reference. But the whole movie's full of them. Our director is an absolute genius when it comes to those references, and comes to just infusing his and now the entire crew's Cage fandom into the movie. So yeah, that's kind of the other story update in terms of that. I've got a few. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. I've got one more film that I'm in the process of starting the production on, putting together pitch packages for. It's the journey of this script. I will do a longer video to talk about, because I'll talk about it on a different thing that's not 17 minutes. But it's a script that is now called Clockwork, and it is the typical, or it's everyone's favorite part of a detective story, where the detective gets all the suspects together and tells them, okay, here's what happened. And in this case, because it's a short film, it's done with the whole movie is the detective's speech with flashbacks throughout to kind of show you the events of the evening and the events of the investigation. The script has been on a journey. I wrote the first draft of this in 2009, and so yeah, we're coming up on almost 15 years of this story being in my head, and I just did I'm in the process of doing some small revisions to it. Again, as I'm understanding it, I wrote it in 2009 with kind of this will be a cool idea for a movie of I love detective stories, let me do this. It's also kind of a funny aside that originally when I wrote it, I was like, it's a Agatha Christie style sort of thing, and then True Detective came out, and I could be like, oh, it's a little bit True Detective. It's got a little bit of the the cop telling the story, and now Knives Out happened, and I can just be like, oh, it's Knives Out. It's like, thank you, Rian Johnson, for making me feel unoriginal, but it's a Knives Out type of thing, but. Yeah, but it started as would just be a cool idea to do a movie in a genre that I love, and looking at it now as I work on these pitch decks, and as this new round of revisions that I'm doing with the script is, as me and my producer have discussed themes and discussed concepts and discussed kind of how do we sell this movie, there has been I guess there's another theme in there that I didn't expect, and I can't tell you what the theme is, because it kind of hints at who the killer might be, or what kind of might be going on, and it's a detective story, so I never want to do that. But it's fun getting to go back through the script even before we start casting and shooting, and get to plan out sort of all right, now we got a couple things to play with on set in terms of theme and in terms of story and style. That I didn't expect when I wrote the first, or even the second or third draft. I think I'm on 6 or 7 now. again, this thing has changed titles and and concepts more than a few times. So yeah, that's where that story is, and it's exciting. I guess the theme of today is further understandings of our stories, but it's really exciting to be sharing this work with you and getting to update you as I'm kind of in some ways updating I'm letting my stories update me. And I've always heard stories of authors where they write characters and they don't know where the characters are going to go. They're like, there's a lot of authors who can tell you, oh, this was a thing that happened in my story that the characters surprised me. And that's happened to me a couple of times, but because I tend to write my stories I tend to like aggressively outline my stories before I write them, there's not a whole lot of plot developments that surprise me. So it is. I think it's a cool treat for me to get to now look back at a story that I've written, and either as I either finish it and start taking it to festivals, or start doing small revisions as we move on to the next step of turning screenplay into film. It's really exciting to kind of be, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that, and I'm sort of understanding myself better as a storyteller and as an artist. And yeah, I don't want to put everything I'm doing into boxes yet, but yeah, in terms of saying, oh, this is what my stories are always about, here's a common theme, but there's some cool patterns emerging, which I really like. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the update. I guess I'm sitting here looking at one of my notebooks. I am working on, if any of you have watched my film Misfire, which is on Vimeo, you can also find it on my website in full, and I also did it during the pandemic. I released it because it's a fairly episodic movie. I released it on Instagram, or IGTV as it was then. Who on here remembers that? I think I still have that app somewhere on my phone or my tablet, and I was like, why do I have this? But I released it as a bit of a web series during the pandemic, so if you want to watch it in chunks, it's also there. It's all the same story. But I have been adapting it and bringing it to the stage as a stage play, because I found a couple really, really cool ways to adapt it, and taking what was a cast of like 30 or 40 people and now shrinking it down to a cast of 7, and finding ways for them to play multiple roles throughout it, and sort of in a way turn the whole thing into this, like, not so much, it's almost like we're doing the unsolved mystery style recreation of the event of something that didn't actually happen. It's just we're sort of doing the version of that to where we can distill it down to this is just the core themes of the story, and do it in a way that's interesting to me, I hope, and I hope to other people, and fun, and hopefully a treat for the cast, because I don't know, when I was an actor, the idea of getting to play multiple parts throughout a thing was always exciting, and I think this would be, I don't know, I'm excited to see where that one goes. I've got some ideas for some fairly substantial deviations from the film, which is also cool because I'm getting to see it develop. But in this case, the core themes are going to stay the same and just kind of be explored in a different way, which is it's a cool process, and it's cool to be able to share that. So anyway, that's my little update on my stories. Hopefully I'll start doing this on a weekly basis. Some of these will not be 25 minutes long. Some of them will be 3, where I'll just sit here and be like, nope, didn't do anything, sorry. But we'll see. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get better at sharing my stories, because it's always been a thing that I've spent the last 15 years writing and telling stories, either visually with a camera or with a pen, or with typing them out, which is always involved somewhere. And it's just, I have not I've gotten better as a storyteller, but I've never been good at sharing the actual stories with people, and it's kind of been it's been a thing that I want to get better at. And so I'm going to try this. I'm going to try sharing my stories with you, or my little updates, and kind of just talking about the storytelling things that I'm learning and the things that I'm doing. And yeah, I don't know, there'll be little updates. Most of them will be shorter than this, I hope. and we'll see where things go. But anyway, yeah, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for letting me share this with you. It's been fun, and I promised I would be done about 20 minutes ago. So I'm gonna sign off, and until next time, next week, we'll hopefully just doing this is getting a little better each time at sharing my stories, sharing my work, and sharing myself with you, because I don't know, I'm a storyteller. It's what I'm supposed to be doing, allegedly. But anyway, have a great weekend. Have a great whatever you're doing, do it well. You're great. And yeah, you too. So, YouTube, I'll see you next time for a live stream. Instagram, I'll hopefully be posting more festival updates. And if not, I just put Instagram back on my phone. So I'll probably be sharing some political stuff because, oh man, things are weird. Anyway, I love you guys. You too. Be good, be kind, and yeah, don't stop. Okay. I try to end both of these at relatively the